We are breaking down all the Group of 5 bowl games here at the Voice of College Football, courtesy Steve Helwick. Check out his work at Underdog Dynasty and also at Hustle Belt. As we move on to the roofclaim.com BOCA RATON Bowl with Western Kentucky and App State. Their distinction is, of course, they both lost conference championship games. The Mountaineers coming in at 10-3 and Western Kentucky at 8-5. I guess we start with Bailey Zappi. He seems to be the name that, and the statistics are becoming beyond video game like with him.
Yes, that's the main thing to watch in this game is Bailey Zappi is 288 yards away from tying former Texas Tech quarterback B.J. Simmons for the most prolific passing yardage season in college football history. And if you look at Bailey Zappi's box scores from his games, he's only had under 288 yards on one occasion. That was against Middle Tennessee on November 6th. He threw 4 touchdowns in that game. And speaking of 4 touchdowns, he's 4 touchdowns away from tying 2019 Joe Burrow's record for 60 in a season. And if you look at his box scores, he's had 4 touchdowns in every single game since October 9th. So odds would suggest that Bailey Zappi could have a record-setting performance. So that's definitely one reason to watch this game. But I just really like this matchup in general between WKU's air raid offense and App State, just a team that finished the year strong. They lost their conference championship game, but they still were 10-3 overall. And App State, they're one of the most consistent teams in college football. They've been through coach after coach. They went from Scott Satterfield to Eli Drinkwitz, now to Sean Clark. And App State still maintains their football identity. That's a mark of a good program. They've won 6 consecutive bowl games in 6 years, spanning those coaches. So now they look to make it 7. I haven't seen what the spread is yet for this game. If I had to set the line, I think WKU would just be favorites just due to the high-powered offense that they had and the fact that WKU was able to go on that 7-game winning streak to end the year. And they have a lot of weapons on offense. Jareth Stearns and Mitchell Tinsley are 2 wide receivers that just post insane stats. A lot of times, Jareth Stearns is first in the country in receptions by a country mile in this air raid offense. But App State has a pretty good defense to back it up. That Sun Belt championship that App State played in was more of a low-scoring game. The fact that they couldn't beat Louisiana was more of a result of offensive issues than defensive issues. This App State team held them to 24. They hold opponents to an average of 19 points per game. So the Mountaineers do have a really good defensive identity. They're good at stopping the run, but I don't think that's going to come in handy against a WKU team that really prefers to air it out. And one thing that's really impressive about this WKU team that prefers to air it out is they don't give up sacks. They are tied with Mississippi State for the most passing yards in the entire country. Yet this team does not allow very many sacks. Currently, they're ranked number 12 in the country, just giving up 1.23 per game. So you got to give a lot of credit to that offensive line for consistently giving Zappi time to just marinate in the pocket and find the perfect target. So that's one thing I got to give the Hilltoppers a lot of credit for. One other storyline in this game is that both the Hilltoppers co-offensive coordinators have already accepted offensive coordinator jobs elsewhere. Brian Ellis has accepted a job at Georgia Southern under Clay Helton. That is the brother of WKU head coach Tyson Helton. And the other offensive coordinator just went to Texas Tech, I think, yesterday. So WKU might be without its play callers in this game, so I'm going to guess Tyson Helton's going to take over those play calling duties for the Hilltoppers.
Yeah, also interesting to note as Western Kentucky's on offense, DeMarco Jackson, the leading tackler for App State with 114 total tackles. He's hoping not to make too many of those downfield because obviously when you've got a quarterback that's that productive, the wide receiver numbers are off the charts as well. Jareth Stearns, 137 catches, 1,718 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Mitchell Tinsley with 80 catches for 1,300 yards and 12 scores. And as we mentioned when you previewed the Western Kentucky Conference USA Championship game, D'Angelo Malone, one of the top sack men in the conference with 8 forced fumbles. And we'll see Jace Bryce again in another uniform at the quarterback position for App State, who is, by the way, a 2-point opening line favorite in this one against Western Kentucky.
That I wasn't expecting that one exactly. One other player that I really needed to point out on App State, though, was their running back Cameron Peoples. He didn't have the most productive season this year compared to what the expectations may have been, but he's a tremendous running back. He splits time with Nate Noel in the backfield. And why I wanted to mention him was he had the best bowl season of any player last year. He had 317 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns in the inaugural Myrtle Beach Bowl against North Texas. And if you watch the CUSA championship game, this WKU team, they really struggled to stop the run that game. I think UTSA's running back Sincere McCormick had over 200 yards in that game, and I think he had about 150 by halftime. So if App State wants to run the ball and get Cameron Peoples or Nate Noel, one of those bowl MVPs, that would be my strategy for the Mountaineers in disassembling this WKU defense and winning their 7th straight bowl game.